We're going to talk about this topic, how to qualify a partner, or how do you know if he or she is the one? And
right on.
I'm going to let Mr. Powell lead off on that one because he has a little bit more experience in that area.
What you mean?
What I said. I mean, you know. Exactly.
How are we starting with it?
So,
this
is how I want to do it. Hold on 1 second. This is how I want to do it. Hold on, y'all.
Right.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Okay. All right. So how I want to do it, I want to break this down qualitatively, meaning we're going to deal with, it's going to be a wordplay because it's a wordplay, how to qualify a partner. So we need to deal with that word qualify. We need to deal with the word partner, like define partner. So
we're going to define partner?
Yeah. How do you?
All right. What's your definition? What's your definition first?
I said we're going to start with you.
No, I want to hear your perspective because, I mean, either way, we're gonna have to get it out you one way or the other.
Well, I mean,
whether I start or you finish. I just, ladies first. My mama raised me right, so I just want to know what's your definition.
Okay,
of partner?
So partner meaning, I would say, how to define the word partner would be someone who, first of all, has to be a spiritual connection, and then a common goal or purpose. I would say when you have a partner, you connect with someone where you both have a purpose that's greater than the both of you. You know, you're not just getting together just to get together because of some fleshly connection, but you are actually, I would say, anointed. There's a certain level of anointing that goes along with fulfilling purpose where, you two come together for that reason. So that's right. How I would define that.
Along those lines, and I'll just continue with it. For me, myself, okay. I want to know that I am going to grow with this person. Mm-hmm. I am going to build with this person.
Right.
I want to be challenged by this person. Okay. And what I mean by that, there's a healthy way to challenge somebody, holding them accountable, which I don't feel like people do in a lot of relationships nowadays. Okay. Along those lines, and just having that connection with that person where you're building mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and from there creating other things that you both need in order to have that strong foundation moving forward. Looking for equal partnership, a person that's going to respect you, and be able to be loyal to you. Being loyal and, coming in so many different things that go with that, because, a lot of people say they want to be down, but, I want somebody that's going to fight every day, that's going to show up, not just when it's good, or whatever the idea of good is to them. So I'm just looking for somebody that's really going to stay in there, thick, thin, and everything, that's willing to just build and let's create something that's very special that we can not only have together, but be an example to others and be able to pass that down if growing a family is a part of those discussions as well.
Now, you have said a mouthful, so we got to break all of what you just said down. But first, I want to start with that word accountability. Because I heard you say holding that person accountable. And in order to hold someone accountable, they have to be receptive. So how do you even introduce that concept into the whole connection? And how do, a person has to be open to constructive criticism. They have to be open to correction. They can't jump to the defense. I mean, you have two whole people. So you don't have a hierarchy, you know, we're both equal. So how do you create that space for accountability and the receptivity of that whole idea of accountability?
I think that respect is probably one of the first things that come to mind. Mm-hmm. And being able to have it where both parties respect each other, understanding that is never personal. Like, we both have the same goals. Like, if we really trying to build something special, then we have to have the same goals and visions in mind. Mm-hmm. In order for us to achieve the type of relationship that we want to achieve. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that because we have differences or things like that, that we still aren't able to get to that goal. Right. But we just have to at least have the same, you know, thought process that goes along with it. And again, what I mean by that is, do we want to build together? Do we want to grow together? Are we understanding that it's not personal in case we face adversity or when things happen? Being respectful of one another, holding each other up to that standard. Mm-hmm. You know, not letting things just slip and fall by the wayside. Speaking on things and being honest and open in communicating the things we like, the things we don't like, the things that we may think mm-hmm. may become a problem moving forward. Mm-hmm. So all of those things are important in the process in order to build something.
Let me ask you this. Special. How do you even get to the point where, because this is how to qualify, right? So how do you even get to the point where you say, you know what, this is someone who I want to build with. This is someone who I recognize that we have a common goal, a common purpose. Like, how do you even get to that point?
In my opinion, I feel that you can tell the way that things are as you're gradually growing together. Mm-hmm. You can tell a difference in the communication. You can tell the difference in how often you're starting to communicate. Mm-hmm. The frequency. You can tell a difference in how you're connecting, how you're vibing, how you're speaking to one another. Mm-hmm. And then you just start asking little questions and putting things out there to kind of see if you're on the same page as you continue to move forward. I mean, you know, you're obviously going to go through your surface level things, what you like, what you don't like, this, that, and the other. And then as you continue to build, start asking those questions. So if you have a list of things that are important to you, that you really feel like are things that you need in a partner, then you need to be able to throw those things out there and ask those questions.
So, like,
because that's really the only way you're going to be able to build. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, so can you discover that through conflict? Like, is there some space for disagreement? Or, you know, some conflict is healthy because in my opinion, I feel like you grow through that. That's how you learn, you know, about the other person, you know, when you experience.
Right.
Then some people say, well, no, we got into an argument or we're not getting along. So therefore, you know, maybe this person isn't a good fit for me. So
yeah, but I think people have to understand. Right. No, I understand. I think people have to understand that no matter what in relationships, period, there's going to come a time where you're going to butt heads or you're going to have disagreements. I think that when you have conflict and you're able to see each other on a level, at least there's respect had, that there's open lines of communication, and just making the effort to try to work through whatever the conflict is, I think that that's a starting point. Nothing is ever going to be perfect. And even if it's at the beginning stages of a relationship, I think those are good times to kind of test and see where you're at with the person that you're trying to build with. Mm-hmm. I look at those things too as trying to understand in your partner and just see how they're going to ride with you and how they're going to be when those times come, because too many times people shut down.
Right.
And that's the first thing that you don't want to do when you're building with somebody.
Talk about the shutdown. Talk about the shutdown.
The shutdown is hard.
What does that look like? I guess is what I'm saying. What does the shutdown look like? Because I know sometimes, like, I know for me, obviously, you know, the shutdown, a lot of times the shutdown has a lot to do with ego and pride and not being able to move past the offense. And so talk about what that looks like.
Well, even if it's not the offense per se, but a lot of time, like you mentioned, the ego and the pride will get in the way of a lot of things, because the person who has the issue can sometimes be so busy trying to push their points upon the other that they're not receptive to listening to anybody else's response as they're trying to find a resolution to whatever the problem is. And a lot of times people will ask a question, but because they already in their mind have already answered it, or what they feel they want the answer to be, it doesn't matter what the other person says. So they've already shut them out. And a lot of times, you know, I wouldn't necessarily try to have a conversation about something until the emotion is removed. That way, at least both parties can hear each other. A lot of times people are so upset and they're so deep into what they feel, they're not trying to be open to hearing what anyone else has to say when it comes to trying to resolve a situation. So the ego and the pride is the main thing.
You mean the heat of the moment? Because how can, if you feel a certain way about a particular thing, how can the emotion be removed? Are you just saying wait until like both parties have calmed down? Because I don't think the emotion, if you are passionate about a particular, whatever it is that you guys are in conflict about, I don't think the emotion ever goes away.
No, I understand that. And well, it depends on where you're at with that person. Some people can have those tough conversations in those tough moments, and be able to get through those situations because the respect for each other is so high that they understand that it's not personal. We're able to have a difficult conversation, and I understand your emotions, I understand where you're at with it, but just understanding that it shouldn't get personal.
I think that requires a tremendous amount of trust.
Absolutely.
You know, typically when people get to the point where they understand, you know, it's not personal, they have developed a certain level of trust for the other person. It's very difficult to be vulnerable, you know, with someone that you don't necessarily trust. So, like, this conversation is going in another direction. How do you think that you create that level of trust where you can get to a point where, you know, you can have the difficult conversations and both parties not take things personal, but are able to be transparent, vulnerable, and really articulate or express how they feel about a thing?
Well, that was another thing that we touched on in last week with Stefan. So just one thing that I like to focus on is the individual. And there's so much work that we have to do as human beings, and just constantly being able to understand where we're at, trying to work through our processes, our differences, trying to make sure that we're healing and doing the things necessary that we continue to grow and build as people. And therefore, you get a better understanding of yourself in certain situations and being able to handle those situations. For two, that type of leadership or that quality of leadership is good to have when it comes in dealing with any type of relational type situation, just with people. So always being able to have, like for myself, you know, one thing I like to use as an example is the fact that being in my professional career, I've had to play in all types of different situations with different teams, different egos, different whatever. And being able to find a way to tap into each individual to help, you know, be the best teammate that I could be, to help those people perform to the best that they can be, whether it be through conversation, through pushing them, through how we practice together, through whatever. So just learning and understanding how to maneuver in different situations when it comes to egos or pride or whatever, and just having a calmness about it. I feel like when you're trying to address something the other person shouldn't feel attacked. And even if they feel attacked, just try to put a disclaimer out there to let them know that you're coming from a good place.
Right.
And you're just trying to get on the same page and be able to work through whatever the situation is in order to resolve it, which is a great thing in order to build that type of foundation with a person that you're building with. And to be honest, it doesn't matter if it's the beginning with you talking to somebody or years, months down the line, it doesn't matter. Because conflict is always going to come. It's always going to be a part of a relationship one way or the other. So being able to have that foundation and continuously build that foundation is something that's constantly a work in progress.
I think that like conflict you'll continue, like there'll always be some level of conflict because we're two individuals, you know, with our own ways of thinking, different ways of being socialized. Right. I just want to put this out there because this has been my own personal experience in communicating and having difficult conversations. And I'm still learning how to work through this. Is like, there are moments when there is a lack of trust and you want to communicate a certain, you know, whatever issue it may be. And it may come across as aggression because you're trying to find a way to say what you need to say. And a lot of times we don't want to feel vulnerable. We don't want to feel that. So sometimes for me, just to muster up the courage to say what needs to be said, it can come across as, you know, aggression. So how do you even get to the point where you can establish a certain level of trust so that you could eliminate that piece and be able to communicate clearly so that you can, you know, have that conversation and get the answer that you need?
Well, two things. I feel like if I'm on the other end of what you're trying to express, for one, I need to do my part in letting you know, like, listen, I'm here to listen to you. Just know that it's not personal. I want to hear what you got to say. Just be respectful of what I have to say. And for two, understanding that it's not personal, then on my end, I have to know, like, don't worry about the tone. Just listen to what's being said. Therefore, I can really hear you and not be so focused in on how you're saying it, but what you're saying.
But Josh, let me ask you something, because I have heard you say several times that it's not personal. And if it's not personal, like if you feel in a type of way, then you have clearly taken something personal. Like there's either a certain level of offense or a misunderstanding or a lack of communication that has caused this scenario in the first place. So how do you not take it personal? How do you not personalize
it if I'm on the other end of it? So for example, if you're the person who's bringing the offense, right? Like whatever's on your mind,
or just an issue,
no matter what it is,
offense, but an issue.
But that's what I'm saying. Whatever the issue is that you're bringing, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's basically me saying and understanding, okay, something went wrong here. I understand that.
Right.
If it was on me, let's say, for example, I did something and I really effed it up, I need to first acknowledge that and take ownership. That way that takes a lot of that off of your plate, and it takes a lot off my plate, because then you can let the person know immediately off rip, like, listen, I messed up. I'm sorry. Now, where do we go from here? But if it's another situation where there's a misunderstanding, then I'm going to let you know, like, listen, I hear you. Just understand how my response is and know that I'm coming from a good place. Even if there's a different change in my tone or something like that, I need to be able to take control of the situation by making sure that I acknowledge, like, listen, I'm coming from a place of love. I'm not coming from a place where I'm trying to disrespect you or a place where I'm not listening to you, but I need for you to be able to hear what I'm saying as well.
Right. Okay. So I want to scale back because I never did get your definition of partner.
No, I did. I gave you that.
What did you say?
I broke that thing. I broke it down. I said, I piggybacked off of what you said, and I basically said, it's just somebody that I want to be able to build with I want my foundation to be strong with this person. I want to be able to know that I'm going to grow with this person. I'm going to be challenged in a positive way by this person, be held accountable, and all those things. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to know that on my worst day, she'll be my best, and I want her to feel the same thing, vice versa. Like, we holding each other down,
well, how do you get
showing
to that,
up for each other, fighting for each other.
How do you get to that point? Like, I mean, is it like over time? Is there, you know, do you have varying experiences? Like, how do you get to that place where you're like, okay, this is the person that's gonna, you know, be there. This is the person that's gonna be loyal. This is the person that's gonna hold me down. This is the person that's going to challenge me. Like, how do you arrive there?
It's a combination of both things. Experiences definitely is something, you know, as you go through something with someone, you grow through something with someone. But for two, I think in communicating, sometimes you get straight to the point by just putting yourself out there with that person if you feel like this is somebody you want to build with. And to be honest,
but how do you
sometimes it doesn't even
build with them though? No, based off.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you spending time with this person and you're putting in a valid amount of effort day in and day out, that goes to show where that separation factor is. Even if you're communicating or engaging in other conversations or with other people, I feel like people know when they start to build with somebody because there starts to become a gap.
Okay.
And as you build with that person, for myself personally, in my opinion, whether there's trust there or not, I think that just opening up those lines of communication, being completely open about some things, not everything, but I think we can pick and choose some things that we feel like we want to share to see how that person takes that and what their response is to it, and then be able to go from there. You know, sometimes you got to throw some things out there. You got to share some experiences that weren't good. You got to express some things that are going on in your life currently at that point, and be able to see how that person is taking it. You know, are they judging you? Do they look less interested as you're sharing some of these things? That's important. You can't necessarily be worried about what their response is. You just have to be able to get it out there yourself and be vulnerable at that moment.
That's hard.
And therefore go there. It is hard, but I haven't met one person in the world that don't have problems. I haven't met one person in the world that don't come from something or hasn't experienced something in some way, shape, or form.
But
we all go through.
Everybody can't handle everything, though. I mean, some people are.
And I'm with you.
I mean, for me,
there's levels.
I'm with you. I ration myself out. Like, I realize, because I would say I'm an open person. Like, I don't have secrets. You know, it may take me some time to share certain things just because it hasn't come up. But I have learned to not give all of me at one time because people do judge. You have to kind of ration and, you know, once like you go through a set of experiences and then you two overcome it, then, you know, you may be able to share a little bit more of yourself. But you can't always just give it all at once. You might run the person.
I feel you, but with me personally, people gonna judge you regardless.
That's true.
It don't matter. It don't matter what good you do. You can be the purest soul ever, and never rubbed anybody the wrong way, and they still gonna find something to say about you. Me personally, I've always said, I just want to be used by God. I want to be here to serve, and if I could use my experiences or things that I've gone through to help the next person, then I'm gonna be willing to do that. Even us doing this show right now, because this ain't nothing that I specifically specialize in, but I'm very open to the conversation to change the narrative and just have this dialogue. So that's me putting myself out there by having these conversations about certain things and things that I like, don't like, and this, that, and the other. People gonna like it, they not. Some people gonna like it, some people not, and that's cool. But I don't necessarily care because I just want to be a part of a conversation to help change certain narratives by using things that I've been through, whether good or bad.
Okay. So let me ask you this. How do, like, we're talking about how to qualify a partner and how to know if he or she, and I guess it's so many things I want to ask. How do you decide if that person? Like you gave me, you defined the word partner, but how do you ultimately know if that person is the one? Do you think that's something you can know like in a short period of time, or is this something, sometimes that people say, you need to go through all seasons. You need to be with someone when they're angry. You need to see how they handle distress. You need to, be with them when there's a certain level of struggle. What do you think? What is your thoughts?
I mean, I think for me, right, just going with a general answer to it, everybody's different. I've heard some men or women say the minute they met the person or the minute they saw the person, they knew that they were the one. I've heard other people say that it's taken time to build with that person, and over time that they figured it out. I've had other conversations where a person might have met a person years ago, didn't work out, and then they came back to it. So I guess it just depends on the individual. It's so many different ways to go about it. Me, myself personally, when I feel like I found a partner, for one, the top 3 things on my list that I want to be able to connect with somebody is spiritually, mentally, and emotionally.
Okay.
And I feel like if I can connect with somebody on those 3 levels, that means that we're able to go somewhere, at least have that start to be able to go and build something special moving forward.
So I'm gonna make you go into each one of those categories and tell me exactly what you're talking about. And I want to start with emotionally, just because, some of us women believe that men don't actually have emotions. I am learning that they do, but I still haven't become a 100% believer. So what do you mean connect with you emotionally?
If you're human, yes, we all have emotions, whether we choose to share those or not. I think that that's different, but I think for me, like being able to be extremely open, feel comfortable being vulnerable with the person that I'm building with.
Do you find that difficult, or is that something easy for you to do? Being vulnerable.
I don't think it's too difficult, because the person that's building that I'm building with will know and understand. Because for me, I'm going to challenge myself to do things that I haven't done, and try to figure out a way to be more open, to be more expressive, communicate things a lot differently. But it's just me willing to put myself out there in those situations more often than I would have before.
Okay. How difficult is it for a man to actually put himself out there?
I know it's extremely difficult. It's especially because you think of your past relationships, you think of other things and situations you've gone through, you think of how people view men as a whole in society, and don't feel it's okay for a man to show emotion or to express things, or he's too sensitive, or he's weak, or blah blah blah. But man, you can't worry about that, because you got to be sure of yourself. You got to be sure of who you are, and with that, you just got to mash the gas and press forward.
Okay, so that was emotionally. So let's talk about this spiritually. What does that look like?
Absolutely. I'm a believer, and I know the things that God has done in my life, and I want to be able to make sure that the person that I'm sharing my connection with is somebody that wants to take that journey with me. Being able to pray together, read together, challenge each other, going to church, taking certain walks, sharing things that require growth, just doing all of those things and being able to connect on that level. Whether you're a believer of Christ or you're a spiritual person, either way, it's in my opinion, it's all hand in hand. Like, being able to have that connection and that bond individually and collectively when it comes to following God, like it's just something that you know is on a whole nother level, because that requires faith and you believing in someone who is unseen, but just having that understanding. And when you can do that for somebody like that, then you can definitely do that for your partner.
So let me ask
somebody that you're actually building with and seeing on a day-to-day basis.
Is that something that comes naturally? I mean, there's certain things that we do individually as it relates to our faith and, you know, our belief in Christ, and I am a believer, but how do you introduce that? Like, does it, like, how do you do, like, because I have gone out, let's say on a date with someone that maybe I just met, and I automatically expect them to bless the table, but sometimes I like don't want to put somebody on the spot. So how do you like even introduce that into the situation?
I think it's those conversations.
You gotta ask.
I think the conversation that, I mean, it's true. I think sometimes communication is just so key and important, because when it comes to certain things, just ask, put it out there. If something is important to you and you want that to be implemented or be a part of, then just figure out a way to implement it and ask. So if you're the person who's very into praying and things like that, and you get with a guy that he's not really on that, maybe what you can start doing is say, look, before I eat, I like blessing the table. And then you be the person to pray. And you never know. Maybe 3-4 weeks down the line or 3-4 months down the line, he might hold your hand and say a prayer himself, because you've started something and you built that and you're putting that a part of your foundation. So therefore, over time, when people get used to doing a certain thing, they'll start practicing that thing themselves. And then it starts to become natural. It's no different than when you're sharing emotion or speaking on certain things. It just takes time in certain situations to build that.
How do you introduce that into the connection?
I'm already on that myself. So, I mean, for me, if I'm at the dinner table, I'm going to grab that hand and I'm going to say, let us pray. I'm going to make that phone call before bedtime, and I'm going to say, listen, man, I want to be able to do such and such and such. You know what I mean? Throughout the day, I'm going to share something that I read or that I thought was something that was a good read. Even sometimes if I just send it, even if you just sending something, you ain't even got to be on the phone with that person or be with that person when they open it. Just say, listen, I want to send you something. Take a look at it when you can. Let me know what you think. And just do that over time. Even if you don't get a response, just send it. You know what I'm saying? Like, just keep trying to do those things and not knowing that over time, that becomes a part of a person's routine. That becomes a part of who they are.
Right.
So me as a father, right? If I did right now, because it took me years to do it, but I could pick up the phone right now. I can call any one of my kids, whether it's the 3-year-old, the 8-year-old, the 10-year-old, and the 12-year-old, and I can say, I want to pray with you before you go to sleep right now. They're going to put their hands together. We're going to say our prayer. I'm going to ask them, tell me 3 things that you want to get better at tomorrow. Tell me 3 things that you're thankful for, whatever, and they're going to tell it to me. Why? Because over time, this is something that we've been working on and that we continue to do. And we built that foundation, and that's what we do. And if I miss a beat, they hold me accountable. Dad, can we pray? Can we do this? Can we? Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about mentally. What does that articulate? What that means when you connect with someone mentally. Give us a picture.
So from a mental standpoint, I think that, you know, obviously you want to be able to be on the same page with your partner. Like, not saying that you guys have to like everything that's the exact same, but at least have a lot of things that you're both interested in, or be open-minded to that. And even the things that you're not interested in, I think for that person, you'll be willing to do those things in order to build that connection. Okay. What about you? What are some things that are important for you when it comes to building and what you looking for in a partnership?
Wow. Aside from what you just, so eloquently articulated, the spiritual connection, the mental connection, and the emotional connection, I look for if a man is engaging. That's a must-have. Like Stefan said last week, a must-have for him is someone who's positive. For me, you have to be able to engage me in conversation. It can't be like a one answer response. You gotta be able to, if I'm talking about the manicurist at the nail salon, you gotta be able to engage me on that. You gotta be able to give me some feedback. So that's important to me, is to have a man who is engaging, intelligent. Is nothing like an intelligent man, someone who is intelligible, like someone who is articulate and expressive, and who can speak. That's important to me. What's important to me is someone who wants to be in my space. Like, he wants to be around me. He wants to be with me. He wants to talk to me. I don't have to beg him. I don't have to ask him. He's just there. I mean, he don't have to overdo it because we're both people of purpose and we're doing what we do. So we're busy. But at the end of the day, I don't have to question whether he wants to be with me. He's in my space whenever he can be. Yeah.
Right.
I would also say family oriented. Like, I look to see if a person is family oriented. I don't have children, but I have nieces and nephews that are just like my own. That's important to me. Does he love his mama? Is he a person? Is he compassionate? Like, compassion, like, you don't see that nowadays. You don't describe people nowadays as just loving. I want to know, is he loving? Is he compassionate?
Right.
I think those are just a few of the things I know I specifically call out in prayer. Like, Lord, this is what I want right here. And so I named those specifically, aside from what you talked about. So
you know what? Just to briefly touch on something, man. Just for our viewers as well. Mm-hmm. Don't underestimate the power of being present. And I know you touched on that already, but it's so many times, man, we're so engaging to the world and we forget about those who are right there in front of us. Mm-hmm. Stay in the moment. Appreciate the moment. Enjoy the moment. Love the moment. Don't let these moments pass you by, because you look up and these years go by very quickly. Just me as a father, me as a friend, me as whatever I am, and people who are in my life, like, things happen so quickly. I got a 12-year-old, and it seems like yesterday she was trying to say her first words. It's just things that happen so quick. We got to stay in the moment and really appreciate one another and engage and be present and be loving in those moments, because tomorrow is never guaranteed.
That's good. So we got about 10 minutes. So I want to go to the comments real quick before we get off here and just kind of address some of the people's questions, if there are any. Guys, go ahead. If you have questions, then go ahead and leave your questions so we can. Oh, she said, I agree, a man who engages. I know that's right. And then she said, someone said, it's never too early. If you scare them away, they're not ready. I think that comment was made when I said, you ration, you don't share everything. That's true.
What are your deal breakers?
What are my deal breakers?
Somebody asked that.
Who are they asking? They're asking Josh or me?
She asking you that. She want to know yours. What's your deal breaker?
What are my deal breakers? Wow. What are my my deal breakers. I would say deal breaker would be someone who is just blatantly disrespectful. Like, you're going to have moments where things, go awry. You pull it back in. But someone who is just disrespectful, just disrespectful and have no regard.
No common courtesy.
Yeah, no common courtesy. That's a deal breaker for me. That's someone who's selfish. That's a deal breaker. I would say someone who's not able to commit. That's a deal breaker for me. I know what I know at this stage in my life. I know exactly what it is that I want. I know what I'm looking for. So I don't have a whole lot of time to play games. I don't have the patience or the tolerance. So I would say, and you can usually tell if somebody is, not for real. I would say smokers. I can't talk to you if you smoke.
What type? Hold on, 'cause listen though. Some viewers want to know what type of smoking are we talking about? Because there's levels. Some people don't like cigarette smoke. Some folk don't like black and mild smoke. Some people don't want that kush.
That's what.
Okay.
Get to specifics. We can talk about that offline. I don't want my hair smelling like smoke. I don't want my clothes smelling like smoke. That's a turn off.
All right.
I would say I could go on and on about deal breakers, but those are just the ones that I can think of right off the top of my head. So, well, I can start getting into physical characteristics, but y'all want me to go there. Go ahead, Josh. What's your deal breakers?
Disrespect is a big thing. People that ain't loyal, that's another one. And if you're not a child lover, you don't treat kids right, or you don't treat the people that you love the right way, then that's gonna tell me a lot about how you're gonna be in your relationship. So
that's true.
That's just a few off the bat.
That on a lot, Josh.
You keep mine simple. Nah, man. I mean, those for me are big ones. Like me as a person, I'm very understanding. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not looking for somebody to be perfect. I'm just looking for somebody who with it, who gonna fight, who gonna, show up for me every day. Thick, thin, whatever. I feel like we can get through whatever as long as we respect one another and we're both willing. So
okay,
I'm open to that, but I just know for me, man, I just want somebody who's gonna be in my life that's down, somebody that's gonna be respectful. Another thing that's important too, man, is for people to keep your personal private. Too many folks bumping their gums about what's going on in their household, and they bumping their gums to the wrong folks. Stop doing that, man. Please keep your personal private, because it's important that you and your partner be able to get through those things together. I'm not saying that you can't have a person or two that you trust, but I done seen it and been a part of when folks talk too much and too many folks involved. It ain't good and it ain't healthy for your relationship. Period.
Y'all heard that? Period. Any other questions? We got Paris over here, our creative director. She's looking at you guys' comments and letting us know what you want to be addressed.
Right.
Any interesting comments?
Let's see. People were just agreeing with you.
That's it. But at what stage can you start asking those questions when you get to know someone? What questions?
I think all of your deal,
The deal breakers, you don't have to ask questions on.
You'll
Deal
see
breakers, you gonna observe. You know what I mean? Because you know the moment you connect with someone, you watching everything. I don't miss anything. You watch everything. You hear everything. You hold on to everything. So that's something internal.
I think though, to go to that question, I think that people have to stop feeling like you have to be at a certain place in order to ask certain questions or want to know certain things, because when it comes to respect, there's no timetable on that, right? People want that from the jump, I would assume. When it comes to if you feel like you have that person, so when it comes to loyalty or when it comes to certain things, when you're building with a person, nobody waits for that. So why are we waiting to ask certain things that are going to help us grow individually and grow together? Huh?
Well, first of all, we have to decide at what point are we building? Like, at what point do you get to a point where you're like, you know what, we're building? Like, how do you know when you're actually building, or if you're still in the process of getting to know, or even trying to figure out if this is someone that you want to build with? You know, because for me personally, I know that I've struggled with this in the past. You know, there may be a question or two that I may want to ask, but I don't feel like I should. I feel like maybe that person may say, you know, why are you asking me this? Or you don't want, you know, like sometimes we even hide how we feel. We don't really want them to even know that we're even concerned about that. Or, you know, or I've even said this, you know, I don't feel like I even have the right, even though I want to know. I want to, you know, and then a lot of times, let's just be real, when it's new, people don't answer questions like that, Josh. They don't.
Well, first of all, if you feel like that, then that ain't the one for you. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can't be yourself, if you can't be yourself, if you can't be yourself, if you can't be open and honest, if you feel uncomfortable because you like, well, I don't know where I'm at, then you might need to kind of start questioning where you at with that person from the beginning. You got to remember, you as a queen deserve what you deserve. Point blank, period. You deserve to be loved. You deserve to be cared for. You deserve to be respected. All of these things. That is what you deserve. That is your right. Just like us as kings, that is our right. We want to find somebody who's a good person that's going to hold us down, love us, treat us the right way, respect us. The list goes on and on and on. So when it comes to the matters of the heart and things that are important to you, you shouldn't feel bad about what it is that you want. If somebody gave you a certain amount of money and asked you to go build the house that you want, everybody and their mama gonna sit up here and they gonna be like, man, I want them marble floors. I want these countertops. I want that sink to look that way. The list goes on and on and on. You're not gonna sit up there and hold your tongue when it comes to that. No, absolutely not. You're gonna get it off. You're gonna do whatever it is that you need and what you want at that time.
Right.
Point blank, period.
True.
Don't feel bad.
Go ahead.
Unfortunately, what? Don't feel bad when it comes to your partner.
That's true.
Don't feel bad when it comes to who you trying to find and build with.
Right. And what he's saying is so true, but when you experience something over and over and over again, even if it's not that person who's, you know, actively making you feel that certain level of insecurity about asking a question, you come with those hindrances, or, you know, those internal, whatever, those things that make you feel like, well, I shouldn't be asking. Or maybe
I'm telling you this, Queen.
Did somebody put that on there?
No, that's just from.
What happened?
No, she was saying that if someone makes you feel insecure, then you need to cut it. If any action, you know, that they display makes you feel insecure, then you should cut it.
Yeah, but nobody. That's what I'm saying. When you know or feel that you know what you want, you shouldn't feel bad about asking for that, right?
Right.
When you go to a restaurant, right, you don't ask them for the most part, right? You might ask them like, do you have a suggestion? But ultimately, it is your choice. You don't owe nobody none of that. Whatever it is that you want, then you should get that.
I agree.
It doesn't matter what that is, because if you settle and you don't put it out there, let me run that back. If you don't put it out there what it is that you want or what you're looking for, ask the hard questions or any question, then you're going to end up settling. Because something that was missing during that time is going to come back and it's going to bite you.
Right. I agree.
That's why you have to be willing to put it out there. You have to be willing to be vulnerable, because you have to understand, and I quote, you are worth it. Period. That's it.
That's it.
You're worth it. Understand that. And when you understand that you're worth it, you know you're not going to sit back and you're not going to sit up there and say, well, I don't know if that's a good question. It ain't the right time. But when is it ever going to be the right time?
Right.
For a man or a woman?
Right.
When is it ever going to be the right time? Because if you're apprehensive now, you're going to be the same way probably the more you get to know a person, because then it's like you start playing the mind games. I don't want to turn this person off. I don't want them to think I'm crazy. I don't want them to think this. I don't want them to think that. The minute you start doing that, man, you're doing yourself, that person, and the relationship a disservice.
Right.
You might as well shut down shop. You have to be open. You have to be transparent from the jump. Because for me, and like you said, one of the first things that you said was, I know where I'm at in this point in my life. That's big. So therefore, if you know that, don't BS with what it is that you're trying to get.
Gotcha.
Point blank, period. You got to be open. You got to be honest. You got to put it out there.
All right. Well, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We'll see you guys next Wednesday, same place, 9 p.m., Relationship Status. Follow us on Instagram at Relationship Status Live. You can also find me at Chanel Nicole Scott on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Josh, where can they find you real quick?
Hey, man, first of all, shout out to all my Southside folks, man, showing y'all love from College Park to Clayton County. Y'all know how we doing it. But, yeah, man, Josh 21 Powell on Instagram, on Twitter, JP21 Reasons. Other than that, you can find me in the church picking up a Bible, staying out the way. You feel me? My dog.